All right, good morning, Grace College. This is really weird, just so you know. I feel like I should be spitting around, but I won't. So my name is Denise Terry. I serve as the director of our Center for Career Connections office here at Grace. And we have just launched Career Week yesterday. So hopefully many of you participated in our virtual sessions that were about a variety of career-related topics. And hopefully those were beneficial for you. But today we have a panel of alumni who are going to share a little bit of advice for you, a little bit about their career journey, all things related to career. So rather than hearing me, we're going to bring them up now. You guys, come on up. You guys can grab a seat. All right, so I'm going to do some brief introductions, and then they get to introduce themselves a bit more thoroughly. So we have people from varying age groups. I'll just say that, Cory. Here we have Matt Mcclure, and Matt is going to share when he graduated and his major and those kind of things. But Matt is the co-founder of 212 Creative Network in Fort Wayne. Megan Carpenter is an executive resume writer. Leanne Lavender is the content manager for Water for Good, and Cory Coleman is the senior vice president at Paragon Medical. So I've asked them to go ahead and just introduce themselves, share the major that you had when you were at Grace, and what your current role is, or your most recent role in the organization that you work for. And then I want you to share, what was your first job outside of college? Okay, so your name, your major, your role, and your first job out of college. So we'll start with you, Matt.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Mcclure. My major was comm, minor in journalism, and let's get the first job out of the way. I was just saying earlier that actually is a trick question because the first job I had was in hotel housekeeping at the Holiday Inn Express
Nice.
Right after graduation. The first career job I had was freelancing for a variety of publications as a journalist. And today I am the co-founder and co-CEO of 212 Creative Network.
Awesome.
Hi everybody, I'm Megan, and I am, like Denise said, an executive resume writer, so that's my most recent role. I was a double major in accounting and marketing, which I don't know if there's any of those weird combinations today, but so what was the other question?
What was your first job out of college?
First job out of college, that was, I was a audit associate with a public accounting firm in Fort Wayne.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Leanne Lavender. That is my real name, by the way. My first job, I actually ended up working here for Grace in the admissions office. Initially, I started out as a nursing major, figured out that was not my thing after about a year and a half, transferred here to Grace, and finished with my degree in marketing. And I work for Water for Good right now, so I'm a content manager there, which means that I write their publications, emails, manage the website. Basically, any content you see from Water for Good is from me. And on the side, I own and operate an accessible design company, so I help families design their homes around wheelchairs and mother-in-law suites and things like that.
Good morning, I'm Cory Coleman. I graduated from Grace in 1983. I had a psychology major, which is what people that change their majors 4 times in 4 years end up with. I did psychology with a minor in business, and that graduated in 1983. I retired in October of 2020 after nearly 28 years of helping start and build Paragon Medical, located just east of here in Pierceton, Indiana. My first job out of college was still working for the company that helped put me through college, and that was doing heating and air conditioning and plumbing and electrical work for a local contractor. It's what you do when you are still trying to get through finding what your career path is. Did that. Today, since retiring, my wife and I, my current role, we have a couple of LLCs. One is Providence Farms, where we raise little cattle and hay, and the second is Providence Holdings, where we do a little consulting and coaching, advising, and investing.
So my major at Grace was counseling. I got my master's in counseling, and my first job out of college was as a bank teller, because that's really related to counseling. Yeah, so we all do those things, right? Those first transitions out aren't exactly what we maybe imagine in our field, and I know students feel a lot of tension over that launch and what will be their first endeavor. So that leads me to really our first question. When you think back to college, what do you recall feeling in terms of those fears, those concerns, the weight that you might have carried in regard to your career path, and even through the lens of this idea of calling? I know for me, the word calling always triggered pressure. Somehow I needed to get it right. I needed to be in God's will, and I needed to know exactly what that was. And that weight and pressure was very distracting for me, trying to sort through, what's appropriate, what's the right thing to be doing. And as I've, of course, progressed through life, and as we teach students here, we like them to see calling in a much broader way. So what was your experience with that word calling, and what was your initial wrestle as you thought about career? And any of you can answer in any order. Go, Matt.
Okay. Initially, it felt like purpose. It felt like what I wanted to do to make the world a better place. You hear that often in Silicon Valley right now, like, we're doing this and it's going to make the world a better place, and this party app is going to make the world a better place. It's kind of a running joke. And when I look back at how that was really ingrained in us here at that time, for me, it became something of a lens in which, what kind of good am I putting into the world? What is my career path doing to leave things better than I found them? More equitable, more inclusive. And it started more truthful, quite frankly. I was starting off as a journalist, and so I was like, how can we tell stories that were not being told at the time? And so that has since then really broadened to be more of a driving undercurrent to what I do. After working in the nonprofit sector for a long time and in arts advocacy, one of the things that I learned from that was really, we don't have to do things the way they've always been done. So when we formed 212 Creative Network, it started off as a program of the nonprofit I was running at the time. But when it spun off, it didn't have to be another nonprofit, and it didn't have to be a traditional corporation. We're very thankful now that we have this option called a B Corp, a benefit corporation. And that means you can start a business, but it has to be for the public good. It has to be mission driven. So you can't just go and say, we can make a profit doing this. Great, it's legal. You have to think, how is this benefiting the community? And so for us, it was an answer to all the other corporations in edutainment and in access who talk about it, but actually kind of data mine. They kind of exploit their customers. And for us, it was impact first, access first. And so going back to your question, that idea of calling formed where I am today. But it wasn't something that was overnight. It was an organic process of growth stemming from just the question, what are you here for?
That's great.
Well, I was one of those people who changed their major a few times. I didn't do it 4 times, but I did it twice. So I came in as marketing and communications, switched to accounting and communications, and then switched to marketing and accounting. So obviously I did not know exactly what I wanted to do, but the thing that I did know coming into college was that I wanted to be able to use my education to help people through business. And to me, calling has always been that intersection between what you're passionate about and how you can use it to help other people. It's not something where you have to be able to see 10 years down the road. You just have to be able to see the next place to put your foot. And that's really okay. And for me, that took me through a circuitous route to what I do now, because I went into accounting. I loved it while I was here, found out it wasn't my thing in the real world, and tried to find somewhere else where I could use my passions and my gifts, and I'd always been passionate about writing. And so now I use my writing in order to help job seekers and professionals be able to tell their own stories and express themselves in a way that is effective and that significantly improves their life. Because, you know, when you're looking for a job, that's super stressful. And if you're out of work, that's really difficult. And so I love the fact that my calling has led me to the point where I can combine those things I'm passionate about, those things that I'm good at, with actually being able to make a tangible, positive benefit in people's lives.
Thanks, Megan. So I'm gonna maybe take a less serious route. I'm sorry, hope no one judges me. So I grew up in a pretty conservative household where it was, you know, you're a girl, your job is to get married and have kids. My parents were not discouraging me to go to college, but it was definitely not a necessity. I was putting myself in debt for, you know, why, basically. And so I think for me, I just wanted to get out of the house, honestly. I did not have this overarching dream of, yeah, being a content manager, designing homes. Like that was, I literally was like, well, my friend is going to Grace. That's how I picked Grace. I chose my major because I looked on a website and thought, marketing. Literally Googled what marketing was. Sounds interesting, I'll try that. And I promise I'm not a super aloof person, but my process of getting here was a little crazy. And I think the word calling just, yeah, you just put so much pressure on yourself. And I don't think God has lined up like, well, you better pick this path, or uh-oh, now you're in trouble. I think for me it was just do the next right thing, do the next best thing. Treat people with kindness. For me, that has been, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that has really kind of led me, I'm not saying I'm always kind to people. I mean, I try to be. But, you know, being aware of who you're talking with and how you're treating people will get you more places to me than your degree will. And, you know, when I graduated without a boyfriend, I was like, oh no, I'm not getting married right now, and I don't really know, you know, what's happening, and ended up getting a great job at Grace in the admissions office that kind of set me up to an area where I kind of figured out what I enjoyed doing. So I guess I'm trying to say, take the pressure off of yourself, do the next best thing, whether that's an internship that's available to you, or maybe, you know, working with a family friend that you know or something like that, and take it from there if you're feeling a little stuck like I did.
I think that's great advice. Fears, I think you asked about, and probably one of the biggest fears that I had in college was I paid my own way through school. And so I had a fear that I was not going to make it and run out of resources before I could get done. Met a wonderful lady that we've been now married almost 39 years. We got married between my junior and senior year of college. And so now I'm providing for two of us and trying to finish school, which became a pretty good fear. From a calling standpoint, similar to Leanne, I grew up in a relatively conservative home. My dad was graduated from Grace. He pastored, he taught up at Grand Rapids and was in ministry, you know, much of his adult life. My brother was in Christian education, graduated from Grace, well-known musician around the world, you know, and all this stuff. And so I grew up with this impression that you go to Grace because you need to be in full-time Christian ministry of some kind. And the thing that I happened to learn probably later in life that took a lot of pressure off of me, because I was psych and business and quickly had business overtake the psychology side, is that you can be in full-time Christian service and not be a pastor or missionary. And it was very liberating for me, and it gave me the calling to be able to recognize that I can be a full-time Christian service as a businessman making a profit, supporting those foundations or charities or people. And, you know, I think about it quickly drove me to where my personal business mission statement, it goes like this. It's to enhance quality of life for those whose well-being depend on our economic success, closely aligned with what you'd said, but above all, never knowingly do wrong. Much like that. Who are the people that depend on our economic success? You know, it's our employees, and it's our customers, it's our community, it's our suppliers, it's all of that. And so that was really what allowed me to be able to put calling in perspective. Is I didn't have to be a pastor or missionary to be in full-time Christian service and to fulfill a calling that I felt God had given to me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. We like to help students think of it this way, that question of what's God's will for my life? We have this very inaccurate view that it's like a target with the red dot in the center, and it's really small, you know? And I got to find that really small space, or I'll be outside of God's will, and I won't be happy, and like all the other things we associate with that. And we really want students to recognize this idea that God's will has less to do with you finding a place and more to do with who you are and the way that you move about in your world, like you were saying, Leanne. So the idea of choosing a major, choosing a career path, quite often the pressure comes because we're thinking about that narrow sense of where will I be in the right place. And at Grace, we really love to communicate that this idea of understanding God's gifting, the way He's given you talents, the way He's wired you, is a pathway to aligning to His will. And that you're free then to move, rather than feel like, the right thing to do is the spiritual job or something that pays well and those kind of things. So I guess I want to ask you guys, what do you think about that wrestle with the question of how important is one's major when you think about career?
I was reading something here recently that suggested that less than 30% of college graduates actually work in their field of major upon exiting college. Less than 30%. That means we've got 70% of the people that are working in an area that wasn't in their major. You think about what's the importance of the major? I guess I'd conject that it's probably not as important as maybe the emphasis or the pressure that we put on it. And I think similarly to what you'd said, Denise, that I've always found that you're going to get the best out of people that either work with you or work for you. You're going to get the best out of those people, and you're going to get the best out of yourself when you're working in your area of passion and giftedness. Not one or the other, both. I've met a lot of people that are passionate about certain things, but they're not very gifted. And a lot of people that are gifted at some certain things, finance, but they're not very passionate about it. And so I've always found that rather than thinking about what's the major that I ended up with, is how can I work in my area of passion and giftedness, because I think that's where I'm going to find the most success, and it's where my employer's probably going to be the most pleased with the performance and what it is that I contribute to the business.
And to add to that, I would also say that your mind is like a sponge, and it can suck up a lot of information. So obviously there's some majors, if you want to go into teaching, you need special classes for that. Nursing, I certainly hope my doctor has gone to school for that. But others, there's some other things. Like I said, I run an interior design business. There are no interior design classes here at Grace that I'm familiar with. But I just trained under someone who I knew and respected in the business, and she taught me what she knew, and I, did my best to absorb that information. You can learn a lot of stuff, especially if you, a few years from now, you realize, like, wow, I really enjoy X, Y, Z. Go back and take some classes. Try to take the pressure off yourself a little bit. And if you decide you want to do teaching, I think there's you can finish a teaching degree in 1.5 years if you have your bachelor's degree in something else. So. Pressure's off.
Yeah. From a major standpoint, it's the starting point. That's really it. It's a place where you can learn kind of the entry point to where your interests lie. It doesn't mean like you are locked into this path. The ultimate thing here is you have to find your community. You have to find the thing where you feel most free to thrive. It's a constant journey. I said this yesterday in our talk about curiosity. The people who thrive the most are the most curious. They're never done learning. They're always soaking things up like a sponge. Short story, but one of the gentlemen I work with, he is an animation director out in Los Angeles, and he didn't start off pursuing a career in animation. He was an editorial cartoonist, he did some design work, and then over time saw an opportunity, and he applied for it, and he got in, and he didn't know anything about that job. He didn't know how to do that job, but they said, hey, we like you, come in. So he learned on the job. It took him longer to do the thing, but he learned, and he did it, and that opened up another door, and another, and he kept pursuing that, and learning, and trying new things. And some of you might have seen the Peanuts revival that Apple Plus had. I think they announced it a couple weeks ago. But the last time I saw him, he was sketching storyboards for that. He had not set out to do that. He had never thought that that was even in his future. But because he was curious and because he took the risks to, hey, I might want to do that. I might want to try that. And he had the humility to fall on his face and keep going and learning from those mistakes. He was able to find not just his community, but a place to thrive.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know you've wrestled a little bit with major, so how important is that major?
Honestly, your major, like these guys have said, it's a starting point. It's not something where you pick a major and that is what you have to do for the rest of your life. I would be in big trouble if that was the case. Though, technically, so here's the thing. You pick a major, you study it, it probably helps you get that first job. And then you figure out exactly what you want to do. But the thing is that God doesn't waste anything that happens to you. And so I may not be working actively in accounting, but I do the accounting for my business. I may not be in a marketing role, but I do the marketing for my business. And even the classes that I thought weren't going to be like super important, some of them have actually turned out to be the most useful in what I do now. So, for example, the management classes that you have to take as a business major, I paid attention because I was anal about getting good grades, but it wasn't something where I was like, oh, I know I'm going to use this. This is super important for me to know. Turns out that most of my clients, they're all about agile manufacturing and SWOT analyses and all of these things that you learn in these classes. And so don't worry that you're wasting your education. Like if you get out into the world and you go, this isn't for me, and you switch, you're not wasting it. And honestly, that's part of the beauty of a liberal arts education as well. Part of the point of being here is to broaden your mind, get exposed to many things, and just grow as an individual, become a more well-rounded person. And if that's all you get out of it, that's not a waste. So your major isn't something that locks you in for life, and what you gain from it, God's going to continue to use, possibly in unexpected ways.
Yeah, and isn't hindsight always the way that works, right? I always tell students they're on a developmental journey, and the journey before college was very formative. College is very formative, but there's a whole chapter that comes after college, which is also part of the refining process, the sorting out, the fine-tuning the best fit, and you can't know that until you're in it. And quite often it comes through trying a variety of things where you start to see what really resonates. And again, for me as a counseling major, never ever intending to be a counselor, by the way, which I know is weird, but yes, that was me, went into HR. And I ended up being the vice president of HR for Cardinal Services. I was there for 9 years. If you would have said to me in college, guess what you're going to do? I'd have been like, what's HR? I don't even know what that is. So I had to learn what those kind of skills and characteristics were while I was trying things, and that's what a lot of you have alluded to. Another question for you is, when you think back to college, what do you wish you would have done differently while you were in school to prepare you for the world of work? Are there things that you would encourage students to take advantage of, or a lens to have, or whatever that might be that you would like to recommend they think about now before they leave?
Use LinkedIn. LinkedIn's not a box to check. It's super, super, super useful. I've landed multiple contracts through it. I get most of my clients through it. And the thing is that I've watched other college students, like people who are still in college right now, gain great followings. They have shown their expertise. They have gotten themselves internships and jobs by doing it. And the other thing is that if you're shy or you're an introvert, LinkedIn is the perfect way to network because you don't have to figure out what to do with all of that awkward small talk. So I really wish I would have done that. Also, you know, I think it's important to kind of pursue the things that are that you're passionate about. And so for me, I took a bunch of journalism classes because I love writing, and Dr. White is amazing. But I didn't finish a minor. I was one class and a practicum away from finishing it. I really kind of wish I would have in hindsight. But the other thing is to be balanced in how you approach your social and academic life. So like I said, I was super, super, super uptight about getting good grades, and I sacrificed a lot of social activities for that, and I kind of regret that now. Not that I'm giving you permission to slack on your classes. That's not what I'm saying. But if you are somebody who is like me and you are super stressed out about grades, give yourself permission to relax sometimes, go find yourself some friends, find yourself a club or two to get involved with. You're gonna have a much better time, and you're gonna come out as a much more well-rounded person.
There's two things that I think about often in regards to that question. One is, if I didn't have a sense of self at the time, of who I was, identity, I wouldn't have pursued the hobbies that I did, which led to my interest in writing and all the things. If I didn't know what I liked, what I was interested in, I would never have set off on this path. So the first thing is identity. Know who you are. And this sounds like go and learn who you are. No. Be open to listening to yourself. What are you drawn to? Where are you pulled? Where's your curiosity pushing you? If you're not curious, there might be some issues there. But generally speaking, knowing and grasping a sense of self is huge in this journey, because that will propel you. The second thing goes back to what you said about using LinkedIn and so on. Build your network. The one thing that I didn't do successfully early on was connect to enough people in the fields that I wanted to pursue, in the opportunities I wanted to pursue. That means for a lot of you, you're going to have to learn to pick up the phone. You're going to have to learn to talk professionally. You're going to have to learn to respond to emails within 24 hours, not a week. If somebody doesn't respond and they're under 30 to an email to me, and it takes more than 2 days, I'm done. Like, it's just that simple, because it's a courtesy. There are basic nuances to how you communicate professionally, and expanding your network, having conversations with people who are farther along than you, will illuminate how you need to act, how you need to present yourself. One slightly funny story is I once interviewed a young man, and it was for a creative job. He did zero research as to the company culture. All of us wore jeans, some kind of neutral t-shirt, a blazer, but nothing that was too relaxed, but it wasn't a suit and tie. This young man showed up, not just with a suit and tie, but clearly his father's suit and tie did not fit him, and had his hair in what I can only describe as coated in enough gel to shellac wood. It was upright and sturdy, like Bart Simpson. And thankfully, I knew where he was coming from, so we had a lovely conversation. And I asked him to come back, but as himself. And then I ended up hiring him when he showed up as himself. Part of knowing where you want to land and doing the research and having the conversations so you don't show up dressed for the wrong event. So you don't show up as the wrong, for the wrong thing. So those are the two big things that I really wish I would have done.
Do you want me to go? Okay. I was actually talking to Cory about this earlier. I think one of my regrets is I was not quick enough to say yes to things that I wish I would have taken advantage of. My one example is some of our friends were planning a trip to Italy after graduation. I mean, you guys are all Grace College students. You know how poor you are. You know how poor I was. And I was just like, I don't have the money. Like, that's going to be cutting it really close with money. And maybe if I get married someday, my husband will want to travel with me. Well, I married a man who hates traveling, refuses to leave the United States. And I could have gone on a great trip with my friends, a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I didn't do it. And just take those chances, get out there, have some fun, absolutely. I had another thing to add, but I forget, so I might tack it on after you're done, but that would be mine.
It's interesting to hear the difference in perspective based on the time periods that people were here. I was at Grace 40 years before these guys, and they talk about LinkedIn, and I don't think the internet was even invented when I was there. Interestingly, there's the couple of things that I'd think of are very similar, but maybe use different tools. The first is that I wished I would have spent more time doing some professional connectivity. I spent time studying and working, and that's it. That's what I had to do. I did some social things. I was the junior class president, got to know folks here and that kind of thing, but didn't have any professional connectivity that I wished I would have done some more of. And the second thing is that I think that I did not avail myself to the resources that existed here at Grace in the professors that were here. You've got access to people that were vice presidents of HR in firms. I met an old friend coming in through the door that works here that has been in business for a long time, credited investor, bought and sold real estate, done multiple business ventures. If I would have recognized that, we've got a building here on campus named after one of my professors in Bill Gordon. Used to have a little shop called the Ski Hut. I took skiing lessons from him, but I didn't ask him about his business. And I wish that I would have taken access to some of the resources that would have been here and readily accessible to me, and people that were willing to make investments, not only because it was part of their job, but they recognized that there was some kingdom benefit in them investing in the lives of young people, and I wished I would have taken better advantage of that at the time.
I'm going to tack on to that because I think networking to some of you may sound like a dirty word, like, oh, I feel fake, like I have to go up and talk to someone and shake their hand and I don't really want to get to know them. I think networking is obviously putting your best foot forward, but also, like Cory said, like, people want to help you. There are people out here who want to invest in future generations and want you to learn about their business. I mean, they find a joy, I know I find a joy in helping other people, and so do they. So don't feel awkward about networking because they don't feel awkward about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
To your point, the whole networking thing, I didn't realize this at the time, but that lack of doing so, and for us it was the lack of having LinkedIn, it didn't exist, neither did Facebook. We had to figure things out on our own. I remember emailing this writers community that I was connected to and said, hey, does anybody know of a writers group in Indiana? And there's like, they literally laughed at me. They're just like, no, nobody writes in Indiana. And I was like, whoa, hold on. I just wrote 2 screenplays, where's, but the culture at the time was like, no, that doesn't exist. They were wrong, and actually I was right. There were other people there. And the following, I think it was about 6 months after that, they shot a movie from a Goshen native who wrote and directed the film, Steve Buscemi and a variety of other folks up in Goshen. I couldn't get coffee that day because they were filming on the street that the coffee shop was on. So one of the things that kind of came out of that was like, years later, we launched this entry point so people could at least see where to start to find mentors, and ours is creative sector, specifically. But part of what I learned in that process, and it took many, many years to kind of fully illuminate, but do your research. Like, whose work are you consuming? What are you interested in? A lot of CEOs, believe it or not, they have their either LinkedIn profile or their emails readily available. When Steve Jobs was alive, you could actually email him directly. And don't be afraid to do it, because we will respond. We are interested in young people who have the audacity to email the CEO or the boss or whomever, and ask questions.
I love that.
Can I tag one thing on?
Yeah, please do.
So I don't know how it is in the other schools, but I know the business school, all the professors are very well connected. If you take the time to actually get to know your professors, they can do some really great introductions for you. So I know that usually students fall in either professor's best friend or avoid the professor like the plague. You probably should get to know your professor, because they probably do know people they would be beneficial for you to know. They might give you a job, they might become a mentor, whatever.
Yeah, that's such a great point. My son is graduating from Purdue this May, and he told me that he's only had a repeat professor once in his whole 4 years. So you guys have such a great advantage of getting to know and having a depth of relationship with your faculty, and knowing that they will be an advocate for you, they'll be in your corner, they've got great connections. But I would also say, there's this office called the Center for Career Connections. I kind of work there. No, we're here to help you with those things. And so when you talked about availing yourself of resources, really want to make sure students recognize we are here to help you connect. That's why we exist. And so whether it's getting you familiar and comfortable with those platforms, whether it's getting your documents ready, like your resume and your profiles, practicing those interviews, those are the kinds of things that we are excited about doing. So make sure you come see us. This is a great lead into, as we wrap up here, we're going to show a little video in a second of some student testimonials about a virtual career fair that we held in the fall, which was our first attempt at this. This is new for all of us, but we have another one coming up on Tuesday. Why would students want to attend a virtual career fair? And I know you guys have already talked a little bit about networking, but what would be the value in your mind of students doing that on Tuesday? And it's internships and careers, just so you know.
I was going to say the more you know. It's a cheeky little thing, but the truth is, there might be somebody there who you're going to really connect with. There might not be, but there might be, and you don't know. So don't close that door. Connect with as many people who pique your interest, and some folks who don't, because there are doors that will be available, opportunities that will be available to you, even internships, and you might find something that you didn't know you were actually looking for.
And there's prizes.
I mean,
Do you see the $100 Amazon gift card? Come on.
Like some
right?
legit prizes.
And I would also add just getting to know different, obviously go so that you can talk to people, but to just learn about different companies and organizations and what they do. Like I said, I work for Water for Good. We are looking for a marketing intern this summer. If anyone's interested, you can email me. Amazing organization. And there are just some really neat places out there that pay well and have great benefits and are also fun to work for. So,
If we haven't already said it, I think we've said it in one way or another, that it's not always what you know, sometimes it's who you know. There's, aside from the demonstration of success that you're going to do either in your academic career or in your professional career, I don't think that there's anything more valuable than being able to know that you've got somebody that is a resource to you that can put in a good word for you, or that out of the blue phone call. That's how I came back to Indiana. My wife and I had a business in Iowa that we sold to be able to come back and help start Paragon. I got a call out of the blue from the guy that was the CEO that said, I heard what you guys did in Iowa and I want you to come back and help us start a business. Okay, so it was connectivity because one of his business partners' dad played in a band of a lady that was like a second mom to me. So it's not always what you know, sometimes it's who you know. This career fair, you're going to get an opportunity to be able to create multiple circles of influence that you're going to have through that exposure to be able to utilize in the future. And I'd encourage you to get started on that with all due diligence.
Yeah.
I got 2 job offers out of a career fair here at Grace, and I accepted one of them. So yes, it's definitely something you should take the time to do. And then the other thing, kind of like what they were talking about, I know sometimes when you're here, especially if you come from a bigger town, a city, this feels like a really tiny community. You're like, why would I want to work here? Like, why would I want to stay? I was planning to move to Boston, and one of my job offers was in Boston. I ended up staying, and I have grown in my appreciation for this community immensely. If you take the time to get to know the community and the businesses, and a career fair is a great way to do that, you're going to find that there is actually a lot of depth in this community and a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, and this idea of networking is important. One of the things that I'd love to encourage students to do is to connect with alumni at Grace. Obviously, we have some professionals here who've taken time out of their day to share with you. It's because they love you and they don't even know you. And that's how it works with alumni. You don't even have to have any relationship, but your affinity comes from the connection to Grace. And so LinkedIn is one way to connect with alumni through that opportunity. But yeah, making sure you reach out to people because they want to help you. So we're going to take a second here and show a short video of some students who participated in our fall career fair, and then I'm going to talk just a couple minutes about the one coming up on Tuesday. So watch some of your friends.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie, and I'm a third-year senior here at Grace. I participated in the virtual career fair this past fall, and I found it very valuable because it allowed me the opportunity to explore what career options there are available to me, to practice my interviewing skills both in general as well as virtually, and just to build connections with potential employers. As a senior, it's so important for me to learn what's out there and what opportunities I might have, and I felt that the career fair really offered that opportunity. So if you're thinking about it, I would definitely say go for it.
I would encourage students to participate if they can. I made a really good connection with one of the interviewers, and we've been able to talk, and he actually works with a mission organization, and he's helped me with resources to lead a prayer group here on campus as well that I'm hoping to start this semester. And there's just, you never know what kind of conversation you're going to have or how the interview is going to go, and who knows, maybe you'll get a job.
I would encourage all students to participate in the virtual career fair. It is a great opportunity to meet different businesses that may pose as possible job opportunities in the future. I would recommend writing out on a sheet of paper notes that you want to make in the interview so that you don't get as nervous during the actual interview process. Overall, the virtual career fair is a great way to make connections and practice a short interview process.
My name is David Schramm, and I'm a first year here at Grace College. My major is information systems. I would encourage students to participate in the virtual career fair because it's a great opportunity to make a connection with someone in your field and to learn more about what they do. I found it really valuable to talk with someone in my field and to learn what their company is like and how it works. And last of all, I would encourage students to be themselves in the meetings. It's the best way to make a good impression.
Something that's awesome about the career fair is all the unique connections you can make. So you're going in one-on-one with these people that are high up in their respective companies, and it's just you and them. You can ask them whatever questions you want, and they just get to talk to you about what they do and how they do it. And a lot of good conversation can come from that, and a lot of good connections can come from that. So you can, you end up with their email, their number, and if you need anything or you need an internship in the future or anything like that, they could be the first person you contact, and they'll remember you. And that could be very valuable for you in the future.
All right, so let me give you a little rundown of how this works. So there will be group sessions that you can sign up for in the fair, and so up to 50 students per session can meet with an employer and listen to their description of their business, what their business needs are, how they want to interface with students. So you can be a bit more of an observer in that sense. Then there are the opportunity to sign up for one-on-one sessions that they mentioned, and those are 10-minute long sessions where you can learn about the employer, practice your elevator pitch, have them get to know you a little bit. It's a brief exchange, but really, really valuable. It goes from 10 to 3 on Tuesday, which is an advising day, so you guys are all out of class, so no excuses. So we want you to sign up. You don't have to participate the whole day. You can just choose the group sessions or the one-on-one sessions that are of interest to you. I would really encourage you, though, to go ahead and just make sure you sign up for some. Even if there aren't employers on there that you're really excited about, go through the experience of being engaged in that way, just for the value of participating. Whether it's a chance for you to talk or just to listen, it's going to be really, really important for you. The fair will be an in-person chapel credit, and we will be sending a list of names of those who participate to chapel, so that might take a little time to show up on your I Attend app, but you will get chapel credit for that as well. And as Leanne mentioned, some really great drawings. So any students who participate, their name will be in a drawing for Amazon gift cards, light rail, boathouse. We've got some really awesome prizes for you, so you don't want to miss that, right? So I'm going to quick pray, and then we'll be done here in just a minute. You guys will see the QR code for chapel here in just a moment. So let's pray a little bit about our futures. So, Lord, I'm so grateful for the way that you do lead us toward your best path for us. I pray that you will help students embrace the process of self-discovery, knowing that it's really about being faithful to you. It's about listening for you, and it's about trusting that you've made them and given them gifts and passions that will help them best fulfill their place here and their part of the kingdom. So thank you for the ways that you've given them opportunity to be a part of Grace and to be a part of this family. Help them to feel great peace and great excitement and encouragement about those futures that are coming. Thank you for the gift of today. Pray this in your name. Amen. Thanks. And you guys have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Tuesday at the fair.